morning. Sorry if I look a little bit disheveled. I've had a bit of an unusual one this morning. I was walking to work and all of a sudden 50 or 60 supermodels start chasing after me and they're trying to suck me off. And I'm going, stop it! I've got a news video to record. But they're all going, no, that merch is just too sexy. We need to suck you off. And I'm telling them, it's up to 40% off right now at cultaholicshop.com. Go and get your own merch. Go and get your own merch. And they're trying to fillet me. It's like bloody Dawn of the Dead, but with sucking off. And it was, it was really terrifying, but I think the real takeaway is that our Black Friday sale is now on and everything is up to 40% off at cultaholicshop.com. And that's your intro, and here's the news. A WWE legend has buried the Undertaker's retirement segment, WWE have rehired multiple backstage producers, and an injured AEW star made their Dynamite return last night. I'll tell you more in a bit. So The Undertaker definitely retired on Sunday night at Survivor Series, 30 years on from his WWE debut. And his farewell ceremony, I think it's fair to say, has got a bit of a mixed reaction online. Some people loved it, some people found it very poignant, and some people thought it was absolute gash. And one of those appears to be BSK member the Godfather, who has been shooting, or at least agreeing with people who have been shooting over on Instagram. So a few people were commenting on a post that he put up, just basically slagging off the Undertaker segment. One of them said, "The whole farewell was pretty boring. You guys all came to the ring. For what?" And Godfather just replied, "Right." Another comment, "What was the point of having you all there and say nothing? It was awesome to see you back on TV, but I wanted more." Godfather replied, "Could have been written better." And then another comment, and strap yourselves in because this is a bit of a lengthy one, "So they bring you and all of Taker's old friends just for you to leave the ring directly after being introduced. I don't watch wrestling much anymore, but I tuned in to see this and I cannot believe how far WWE has fallen off. This send-off was embarrassing for someone the caliber of Taker. With the cinematic success of his Mania match, they could have produced something where he's digging his own grave and all of his old friends are there to watch him ascend to the heavens, or something more mysterious." Digging his own grave, all right. "Something filmed outside of this lame Thunderdome. An empty arena with piped-in crowd noise was the best he deserves. There is zero creativity anymore. Flat out lazy and boring. This was lazy and uninspired. Seeing you all hang out at the hotel would have been more entertaining." And Godfather replied, "Well said, and you're right, the night before was epic." One last comment. A lot more thought should have got into that last night, but at least the BSK got to reunite one more time at the hotel. And Godfather said, "That's the most important." If you didn't see the segment, it was bizarre. I totally get what these people are saying. In that it was like all of Taker's old mate, BSK, and people that he's had really iconic matches with, they all come out, they stand in the ring for a little bit, and then they disappear. And then Vince McMahon comes out, he introduces Undertaker, and then he disappears. And then Taker comes out, says about 20 words, and then that's your lot. So I understand the criticism. And given the character of the Undertaker, they could have done something significantly bigger, without a doubt. It was just, even if you just had his mates there at ringside clapping, they just vanished. They did a bloody David Blaine and they were just gone. So yeah, I think they could have done more, but at the same time, him digging his own grave? Maybe a bit much, that. Next up, WWE have rehired a few of the backstage producers that they furloughed way back in April. Feels like a bloody lifetime ago. So at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, obviously they laid off a load of staff, wrestlers, and they furloughed a bunch of backstage agents and producers. A few of those are starting to reappear backstage at WWE events. The first one is Shane Helms, who was backstage producing at Survivor Series on Sunday night. We most recently saw him, in fact, in the Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara match at AEW Full Gear. He popped up there, didn't he? But he's back with WWE now. Next up, Fit Finlay, backstage. Fit Finlay is the man who is largely, or has largely been in charge of producing a lot of the bigger women's matches and they bloody love him. And he does an amazing job, apparently. Everything that I read about Fit Finlay and what he does backstage, it all paints him in a brilliant light. So he's back, and an interesting one, Brian Kendrick has been working as a producer for NXT recently. Obviously, he's over on 205 Live on the odd occasion, but also now it looks like he might be starting to transition into a backstage producing role, and you can't really think of many people better to make that transition. The guy is so bloody good at what he does. He's been doing it for ages now as well, and he's class. Hopefully we'll still get to see him wrestle, because I really enjoy his matches. But there you go, he's backstage producing for NXT now. Next up, big return last night on AEW Dynamite as a previously injured wrestler reared her head and made her presence very much known. Abaddon is back. So Abaddon has been off our screens for a little over a month now. She was injured in a match on AEW Dark last month in what was said to be a really scary moment. You won't have seen the match because it never aired. Essentially, she was in the match with Tay Conti, took an elbow to the throat, and she was unable to breathe. And because of that, the match was called off immediately. It never aired, and we've never seen it, but all of the reports from that taping said that it was very, very scary indeed. So it's good to see her back after not too long away, and it's good to see her getting what looks like it's going to be a pretty decent push, because she's been on Dark an awful lot, but seeing her on Dynamite confronting the AEW Women's Champion, Hikaru Shida, and she came to the ring and she got the belt and she spat bloody blood all over it. Bloody blood, the worst kind of blood. And so it looks like we might get a little feud between those two. So good for her. Really, really good to see her back. Excited to see where she goes and what she does next. And she's one of AEW's, I think, best characters. I think she's got heaps and heaps of potential. I think she's really decent in the ring too. So thumbs up from me. And finally, we're finishing on some really sad news indeed, as Bob Ryder has passed away at the age of 64 after a long battle with cancer. Dave Meltzer tweeted yesterday, Bob Ryder was found dead at his home in Nashville by police today. We don't know more, but he had fallen yesterday and was on advanced chemo. Impact officials couldn't get in touch with him and went to his home, and he never answered. Police were called and found him dead. This is really, really just such tragic news. Bob Ryder has been in the wrestling business for a hell of a long time. He was the founder of OneWrestling.com, and he broke all sorts of big stories, especially during the late 90s. He was the one that broke the story of Brett and his move to WCW. He got on that first, and then he himself ended up in WCW as well, hosting WCW Live alongside Jeremy Borash. And then he was one of the founding members of TNA, and he had been with them ever since. And just really, really terrible news. Ed Nordholm and Scott D'Amore released this statement on ImpactWrestling.com yesterday. I've trimmed it down, so this is just some of it, but it's a really, really touching tribute to Bob. They say, everyone at Impact Wrestling is heartbroken by the passing of Bob Ryder, one of its founders, and in many ways, the heart and soul of the promotion. As many fans know, the very idea to create this company was born on Bob's fishing boat during a trip off the Gulf Coast in 2001. It's no exaggeration to state Impact Wrestling would have never existed without Bob's inspiration, and would not have gone on to entertain millions of fans over 2 decades without his passion and dedication behind the curtain. At Impact, we joked that the chair and desk at Bob's house was Impact's mobile command center. Every wrestler and staff member knew that if they didn't have a place to stay, if they'd missed their flight, if their car had broken down, they could call the command center, Bob's phone, and he would take care of it. Bob prided himself on that and being available 24/7. Even during his annual Christmas cruises, he would carry his cell phone and laptop everywhere so that he was available to help even from the middle of the ocean. During that entire time, Bob insisted on continuing to contribute to Impact. He refused every offer to take time off or a sabbatical, even after chemotherapy sessions. He needed to be involved. There are a lot of people who live for pro wrestling. With Bob, it may have been literal. Impact Wrestling will be celebrating Bob's life in the days and weeks to come. We will think about the best way to honour him and the legacy he left for us. For now, we will take a moment to say farewell to a member of our family. We will never forget you, Bob. Really, really touching words. Really touching words. And a few tributes, in fact a lot of tributes, pouring out on social media. Dixie Carter tweeting out, "Beyond devastated about the passing of Bob Ryder. He was the kindest, most selfless person you could imagine. He always did for others. He meant the world to me. We had just talked and I was worried he would be alone for Thanksgiving. Cannot tell you how much I will miss him." Drake Maverick, Rockstar Spud obviously in TNA Impact. "Rest in peace to my dear friend Bob Ryder. I loved you very much. I wish I'd told you what you meant to me because you were always there for me, like a great uncle when I first arrived in America. Can't believe you're gone. I'm so sorry. You were family to me. Hashtag Bob Squad." Abyss, "I'm crushed to hear Bob Ryder passed away today. He was one of a kind. He loved the business, the talent, and everyone around him. He wore countless hats and was a big part of the success I had during my career. I love you, Bob. Rest in peace, my friend." And finally, Matt Hardy, just heard the sad news about Bob Ryder's passing. "Bob took such great care of me and my family during my time with Impact. Even after I left, Bob was so incredibly supportive of my family and career. Godspeed, my friend. You will be missed. Rest in peace, Bob Ryder." So he's a man who did so much for Impact Wrestling. As one of those tweets mentioned, he wore many hats and he was responsible for everything from hiring talent and liaising with them as their contracts continued, to producing segments for TV, and the guy just did everything. I think the words there from the tributes that I've just read out say certainly more than I ever could. So Cultaholic, of course, extends its condolences to Bob's friends and family, and yeah, it's just dreadful news.